I want to just talk a little bit today about something that I hope helps you answer the question of, do I have trauma or not? Over and over, I continue to hear people sharing with me that they don't think they have trauma. They think they had a really good childhood. Nothing bad happened to them. So why then in their mind do they have so many of the characteristics of trauma when they don't think they had any trauma? And so what I've come to realize with that is that they think of experiencing trauma as something that you experience only with your five senses. And if you don't experience it with your five senses, then it can't be trauma. Dr. Stephen Porges has done such valuable work when it comes to understanding the vagus nerve. And to me, a key thing in understanding the vagus nerve is that one of its main jobs is to alert us to danger. But it does it through three different means. And it's understanding those three different means of how it perceives danger that is so important to really understand trauma. And so another way to say all of that is there's three different ways that our brain perceives danger. So the first one is perception. And that's the one we talk about with the five senses, that you perceive through the five senses what is happening in your world. So you can taste it, you can smell it, you can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it, all of those things. That's perception. And so, yes, you can perceive through the five senses a horrific event happening, and that can be traumatic. What I want you to see is that the five senses basically pick up what we would refer to as big T trauma, horrific events in the external world that are happening to us. But what I want you to see is that it's only one way of perceiving danger. And though it, yes, is true trauma, it's only a small percentage of trauma. It's the other two types of ception or perceiving where most of the trauma happens from. And so most people, when they think of trauma, only think in terms of perception. So if I didn't perceive it with my five senses, then nothing bad happened to me. And what I hope you begin to see is that that understanding of perceiving trauma is very narrow and therefore can be quite misleading. So the vagus nerve has a second way of perceiving danger, and it's called interoception. And so it's how the vagus nerve senses what is going on in our body to see if it's safe. So it's constantly aware of our heartbeat, our breathing, our blood pressure, if we're hungry, if we have to go to the bathroom, if we're thirsty, if we have an ache, if we have an itch, if we have pain. So it's constantly scanning, keeping track of, through millions of nerve ends, all that's going on within our body to see if there might be something wrong that needs attention. So think of it when it comes to complex trauma. Think of a child with chronic health issues. So they constantly have pain. They constantly have issues. Now, the doctor may not be able to diagnose them, or the doctor might diagnose what the problem is, but they can't find a cure for it, a solution to it. So the child continues to live every day with pain, with aches, with burning, with bad things happening that can't be resolved. Do you see that to that child, their body is now a dangerous place? That every day they live with fear, not just pain, because there's no solution to either. They now live with fear of death, fear of the next treatment, fear of constant weakness. All that is going on inside of them. And so their body has created a complex trauma world where they don't feel safe. So some trauma can come through interoception. Now, I would say it's a smaller part of kind of the whole trauma picture, but for some people, it's a very real part. The third is Neuroception. And this to me is the key one that we need to understand, where a large percentage of trauma comes from. Neuroception is what you might refer to as intuition or sixth sense or your gut. So picture a child that goes into a room and there's two strangers in the room. They've never met them before. They go right up to one stranger, are friendly, even let the stranger hug them. The other stranger, they stay as far away as possible. And you go, why? They don't know either person, but their gut senses one is safe and one is not. That's neuroception. So neuroception is picking up vibes. It is picking up things we can't see with our eyes or pick up with our five senses. It is picking up danger. And you can also think of a person who's walking along and all of a sudden feels that somebody's following them or looking at them, or this is not safe to go down this street. What is that all about? That's neuroception. That's that gut feeling of safety. And so a child has just amazing ability, amazing neuroception, that they're picking up from their environment who's safe, who's not safe. It is such a critical quality. And so, sadly, for many, many people in complex trauma, they were encouraged to stop listening to their gut. So they sensed that their uncle wasn't safe, but their parents said, oh, you're making that up. Or no, your uncle's fine, go with them anyways. And so they had to kind of repress their gut, their messages that they were receiving, because they couldn't do anything about them. So they turned it off. So it's fascinating to me that the studies that have been happening in the last number of years are showing that even in the womb, the fetus is using neuroception. It is picking up and sensing mom's emotional state, mom's stress level, and that is affecting their nervous system, their stress system. There's another way that this to me is so important, especially in understanding complex trauma. I have so many clients that say to me, I grew up in a wonderful home. Nobody ever fought. All my needs were taken care of. We played all kinds of games together as a family. We did lots of things together. And then I asked them, if you were to stop and think about and sense what was Dad's emotional state deep down below the surface, not just what he displayed and laughing and having fun, but what did you sense underneath? Oh, Dad was a very angry person. You never wanted to cross Dad. And what did you pick up about Mom? Oh, Mom just never really had time for us. Mom was very depressed all the time, or very anxious all the time, or Mom was just always preoccupied with her appearance and her friends and all of that. Do you see? That's neuroception. Everything on the outside by your five senses looked like a wonderful home, but neuroception is saying this is not a safe home, because these are not safe people. You cannot connect with somebody who's angry. You cannot connect with somebody who's full of anxiety, who's preoccupied with themselves. And so neuroception in that child was saying, even though all my physical needs are being met, I do not feel safe. And that results in little t trauma. And this little t trauma is that invisible trauma where you're picking up danger even though your five senses aren't. Your external world appears fine, but neuroception is saying this is not safe. And so I would say this is probably the greatest thing that contributes to people ending up with complex trauma is children have great neuroception. And so they are picking up not the external world so much, but the internal world of their parents. And so if Dad's got lots of shame, Dad's got lots of anger, they're going to pick up on that. It's going to affect them. So think of it even farther. I don't know how many people you know who when you look at neuroception versus perception, they can walk into a room and let's say their wife has a brand new dress on, a brand new haircut. They don't even notice it, but they can sense something's off with their wife. So their neuroception is actually more acute than their perception. They don't see a whole bunch of things. They're not relying on their five senses to be their main guide in life. They're relying on neuroception. And that's what I want you to understand is going on in a child. Neuroception is their main way of perceiving danger. Yes, they're going to use their five senses, but neuroception is prioritized system for perceiving danger. So, again, the tragedy of complex trauma is the child has to shut that off because nobody's listening to it. It's just sending them warning signs that they can do nothing about. So let's get rid of it because it's just adding extra noise and anxiety that I don't know what to do with. So they repress it. But what I want you to understand is it's like the radio system, the radio station is still broadcasting. It's still picking up. It's still working. They've just shut off the receiver, so they're no longer hearing it. So a big part of recovery is retraining your neuroception. It's beginning to be able to hear your gut again, interpret your gut again, know when it is accurately guiding you and when it's misleading you. That takes time. That takes working with people with experience, but it is so important because this neuroception is such a big part of being healthy. So if you're one of those people that have been wondering, I got all these symptoms of trauma, but I don't think I had trauma, I hope you can now understand a little bit better maybe where your trauma came from. Don't think in terms of the five senses. Think in terms of neuroception and interoception. And as you think about those two areas that perceive danger, maybe that will help you begin to go, oh, okay, now I see. I was sensing mom and dad weren't safe, etc., etc. Thank you. Have a great day. See you next time.